So before I welcome the final panel up, I just wanted to remind everybody this is our last day, and with the conversations about the archive, we're capable of so much more than what we have been putting on those 3 boards. So let's contribute, please, to the bibliography, the TA outcomes, and the timeline. So I want to welcome up our final panel, Collective Curatorial Practices, which is going to be moderated by Holly, and welcome in Dr. Shani Roper, who's a curator at Liberty Hall, Legacy of Marcus Garvey in Jamaica, Alon Schwab from Cooking Sections in the UK, and Carla Acevedo-Yates, assistant curator at the Eli and Edith Broad Art Museum in Michigan. So please come on up.
I know everybody is probably a little bit raw this morning, and I'm sure unpacking so very much. Yes, please come sit. Come keep me company. So for me, it's a real pleasure to start the day off in the company of these amazing cultural workers who continue to push the boundaries of how ideas and art across the Caribbean and its peripheral geographies continue to be accessed, historicized, and nurtured. As a testament to the growth of Tilting Access, for the last 2 years, during our convening, I've spoken to several professionals and moderated panels within the informal and formal art networks that I've had relationships with. Whether it was through me working with them, being peripherally connected to them in some way, or being closely aligned to their practice, directorship, and working methodologies. This morning, I convened with a group of curators, historians, and spatial practitioners, whose work I know now due to this gathering, and it pays attention to how we as an administrative core have been thinking about the growth and the nuance of the meeting, and in particular, the theme, curating the Caribbean. And while we were throwing around ideas, the word and the work of caring kept on coming up in our discussions, cura and curare. 2 elements of how, especially within the space of the Caribbean, we have to think about care in ways that deeply impact the way we maneuver through our space and through our relationships. And this word has kept on coming up, being reinforced, and we continue to unpack the importance of fortifying these relationships. So whether it be through work that we are doing in our local communities to educate our public, to allow for others penetrating and careful eyes and minds to study our space, or the considerations that are made as we theta on, often being unsure of how to deal with our cultural legacies and histories that are complicated by obscurity, brought on about by high levels of ignorance and complacency, and invisibility within our local spaces. And as I began to consider the professionals to sit on this panel, Carla Acevedo-Yates kept on popping up in various capacities, doubled with the fact that we've been playing social media tag for the last 5 years. So when I started to engage with her, she opened up a dialogue with me and sent me her MFA thesis, which oddly enough was titled Curating as a Double Game, Curare as an Alternative Method of Institutional Critique. And in this work, she pays attention to the way in which the origin of this word, curare, which was made by a Tucani indigenous tribe in the Amazonian basin, is actually a distortion of the Carib word urari. Curare is also a black, sticky sap or resin obtained from certain tropical trees in South America that acts on the body's nervous system, causing paralysis. However, if ingested, it has curative powers. Situating this word, the thing itself, and its origin in the global south is important, while we think about ways in which the center and the periphery continues to be understood and unpacked. And I can think of no better analogy, and perhaps even more powerfully, an image to hold in our minds as we move into our conversation this morning, which focuses on the impact of collaboration on curatorial practices, whether it be through institutional exchange, mentorship, the development of informal partnerships, personal connections with each other in the industry, or through mediation with artists and the public. Today we will strive to understand 3 different curatorial actions and techniques, and how these function to develop frameworks that lead to decolonized practices, advocacy, and a fairer, more neutral understanding of diverse representation within the work that is being developed across the region and outside of it. These innovative thinkers, tinkerers, actors, players are striving to evolve strategies and ways to implant themselves into moments that can help us refine and push forward our thinking about the Caribbean, and how we might develop points of resistance within our own thinking to examine our post-coloniality. And it is an honor and privilege for me to welcome Dr. Shani Roper, Alan Schwab, and Carla. This morning's presentation will follow a similar format to the previous sessions, where each presenter will speak for roughly 20-25 minutes, and then we will open up for short discussion. Thank you.